Taoism is an ancient tradition of philosophy and religious belief carrying deep-rooted Chinese customs and worldview. Considered China's only indigenous religion, Taoism originated 2,000 years ago from the writings and philosophy of Lao Tzu. It was during the Tang dynasty that Taoism gained its official status and exerted profound influence on political and social life. Taoism is about the Tao, which literally means the way. Tao is the ultimate creative principle of the universe, and all things are unified and connected in the Tao. Taoism is also a religion of unity and opposites, as evident in its best-known symbol, the circle of yin and yang. It represents two primal, opposite forces in the universe, dark and light, female and male, cold and warm. There are an estimated 9,000 Taoist temples across China. Taoism's emphasis on the balance between humans and nature has helped it gain recognition in modern times. And Taoism has become increasingly influential in the West, especially in the fields of alternative medicine, meditation, and martial arts such as Tai Chi. The Fourth International Taoist Forum, held in the Wudang Mountains in central China's Hubei province, has attracted thousands of Taoist masters and believers from more than 30 countries and regions, in a call to make their contribution to world peace and harmony.
Taoism is an ancient tradition of philosophy and religion based in Chinese customs that emphasizes harmony between humanity and nature. It is attracting a growing number of adherents across the world. What is the essence of Taoism? What exactly is the Tao or the Way? Why do many Westerners find the Tao Te Ching fascinating? And is Taoism Chinese or international? To discuss these issues and more, I'm honored to be joined in the studio by Master Zhang Gaocheng, Vice President of the China Taoist Association, Martin Palmer, Secretary General of the Alliance of Religions and Conservation, and Patrick Nice, former Belgian Ambassador to China. That's our topic. I'm Yang Rui. This is Dialogue. Gentlemen, welcome to our discussion here. First of all, what is the essence of Taoism?
The essence of Taoism, basically, we would say that's the truth of the universe. And it's the support for everything in the universe. So it's a very deep knowledge, we call it the true knowledge about the universe, the rules of the universe.
Time and again, over and over, he says Taoism is about the basic principles and rules on the universe. That gives me the strong indication that China, which is heavily influenced culturally by Taoism, along with Confucianism and Buddhism, stresses the importance of being holistic in our examination of the whole world.
Absolutely.
I'd like to have your thoughts.
I think that's the heart of it. One of the great differences, I think, between Taoism and conventional Western thinking is that Western thinking is dualistic. There's either good or bad. There's male or female. You know, we divide the world up into easily morally categorizable sections, good people, bad people, and so forth. Whereas Taoism just simply says, no, there are natural forces. Yin and yang are in a sense amoral. They're not moral forces, they just simply are how the universe operates. So you have the seasons is perhaps the best description. So the yin seasons are autumn and winter, the cold and the dark and so forth. The yang seasons are spring and summer. And that sequence of flowing one to the other is essential for the well-being of the planet. Whereas in the West, we've tended to want to categorize the world into good things and bad things. Taoism actually says, no, look at the whole. Look at the completeness of it. Look at how yin and yang complement each other and balance each other, and how from them, qi, this great energy that animates the universe, flows. So for Westerners, part of its appeal, as it has been, I think, for Chinese tradition, has been it presents you with a picture of a holistic view within which you, as a human being, have a unique role as well.
My next question, Mr. Ambassador, is very much about the influence of Taoism. Why, on the one hand, traditional Chinese culture has been shaped by three teachings, Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism. But I'm wondering aloud why it turns out that Taoism is no match for the influence of the other two teachings throughout the world.
It came to the West in the 60s, 70s. The West was looking at the time, especially in Europe, was doing some soul searching about ourselves. We were hit by the decolonization and all what it meant as wrongdoings from our side. So our generation was looking for something different. And then we get a tap on the shoulder, and this was the Tao Te Ching. I mean, this came as another way to look at things, to maybe reconciliate ourselves with the basics, you know, the basics of life, and also go back to what really matters, which was not maybe the dream the Western had at that time about its future and the way the world should move. So I think Tao has played a very important role in this awareness, in this development of the mind of the West. You know, it came also through psychology. A lot of new psychologists, mainly coming from California, were inspired by Taoism, and this is the way the generation of the 60s, the 70s came to go to discover this way of getting back to respect of very petty things, you know, very even a mosquito.
Master Zhang, another major aspect concerning Taoism that may have impressed the world is the practice of shadowboxing. Whenever a Western media player produces a documentary or a news story about the morning, bustling life in the morning, they turn to waterfront in Shanghai to document people practicing Tai Chi Chuan or shadowboxing. Recently, one story went viral on the internet between a free boxing guy and a Tai Chi practitioner, a Tai Chi boxing practitioner. So the guy of Tai Chi boxing was defeated, and it was very humiliating for those who have practiced Tai Chi shadow boxing for years. Now, there are many different arguments about why a Tai Chi practitioner lost in this battle.
Okay.
I'd like to have your comments on the nature of the shadow boxing. Is it meant to be offensive?
Okay. This is one of the questions I really like to answer. One of my favorite spots. In fact, the Tai Chi originated. It's not from the. It's not for the defense. You know, it's basically cultivate yourself. We call the inner energy. This is basically related with the southern school of the Taoist, and we call the inner alchemy. Basically, you rebuild your whole internal system, and to make you, first goal is to make you live longer and healthier, and then after your energy totally transformed to a higher level, you can leave your body. So this is the goal of Tai Chi. But after 100 years, people find out this is very good for strengthening your body, and then they apply the Tai Chi, the principle, how to practice to make you stronger. So that's why they use that to do the defensive things. You know, while this guy, I didn't even pay too much attention because there are so many boxers have been together, you know, they're fighting together. They wanted to show their.
You mean this is excessive criminalization of something that is vulgar, nasty, instead of going back to the nature of Tai Chi philosophy itself?
I think so.
Yes.
This is
The Tai Chi
spectacle.
means something. Basically, we call it the Tao. We call it the pursuit of the Tao, of the real knowledge. We use some kind of techniques. That's the secret part of the Taoist things. We call it the technique. Taoist technique of enlightenment. It's not for enlightenment. Is not for I want to kill you or I want
Nor
to.
for personal gain.
No, not
Either.
at all.
Now, I'm a major of foreign language. I have a question for you as to how to do the translation of 绵里藏针.
绵里长针.
Right. 绵里藏针, I think, is a catchphrase in the vocabulary of Taoism. 以柔克刚 is yet another phrase to characterize how you attack your enemy.
It's basically, you know, in China we have, I mean, Taoists we have a lot of sayings about how do you work on things. The the famous one is there's one saying, you accomplish things without doing much.
More is less.
Yeah.
Or less is more.
Yeah, less is more. Wu wei.
无为而治.
Accomplish everything.
Oh, that's the style of the Reagan administration, hands-off style.
That's correct. Okay. So basically,
One way of looking at it.
we always think if you accomplish anything, right, you're gonna exhaust certain resources. You know, so in the Taoist way of thinking, we want to accomplish everything without, you know, doing much. So that's basically.
This is why I think Taoism has such a central role in environmental thinking. And this is the area that we've worked for many years through the Alliance of Religions Conservation with the Taoists, because Wu Wei is about how do you enhance life, but without diminishing the life of other creatures, other beings, the planet, the soil, the waters, the air. And this is why worldwide there is huge interest within the environmental world.
You're watching Dialogue with Master Zhang Gaocheng, Vice President of the China Taoist Association, Martin Palmer, Secretary General of the Alliance of Religions and Conservation, and Patrick Nice, the former Belgian ambassador to China. We're discussing what is Taoism, what is the essence of this religion and philosophy. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back, gentlemen. Now, a question about afterlife, which keeps so many people in their millions so curious as to whether we have a God, or whether we have a life that may be more enjoyable and beautiful in many sense, in many ways. What do you think of the Taoist emphasis on afterlife?
This is a very interesting topic because have you ever heard of the immortality and immortals and all those Chinese deads and all kinds of we call the masters? We have, according to Taoist, this body is just one of the. It's like we can see that it's like a motel. You know, your soul just taking this motel for a while.
We are fallible, we are weak, we are vulnerable,
Right.
we are human because
You have to recognize this is a temporary place. You can't stick. I mean, can't stick with this all the time. So all the techniques we call the Taoist techniques for enlightenment. For enlightened people, they won't stick with their motels. You know, the body.
With their temporary places.
Right. The temporary places is not the eternal things. We wanted to train ourselves so we can be free of any of those
secular concerns.
That's correct.
Martin, what are your thoughts on afterlife and the issue of immortality?
But within the Taoist context, it's unique because most religions have the view, exactly as Master Zhang's just said, that this body is just simply a shell that we inhabit for a short period, and then at death, within the Christian tradition, I'm a Christian, the belief is that we then have a life after death that does not require a physical body. Taoism is unique in the world's religions, in that it says you have to have a physical body, but it must be an immortal physical body. And this led Taoism to develop two very different schools of how to survive death. The first school was to try and ingest materials that would mean your body would never perish. This meant eating jade or gold or swallowing mercury. And unfortunately, far from prolonging life, these practices actually shortened life, because if you eat mercury, you're going to poison yourself. But the notion was, if our physical body could be made eternal, like gold, gold never rusts, it never perishes, then we could continue after this life with a body that was be as immortal as our soul. And then the second tradition, which is now the real heart of Taoism, is that through meditation, through reflection, you in a sense build an inner body, a body that is going to carry your soul, your spirit into the next life. One of the things I think that is fascinating about China, in terms of belief about the after death, is that many Chinese are quite happy to hold 2 or 3 completely contradictory views about what will happen after death. Do you become an ancestor? Do you become an immortal? Do you get reincarnated, possibly slightly higher, maybe slightly lower, who knows? Whereas in the West we have a fixation. What is the right answer? Is this how I will reach heaven? In Chinese belief, there are so many different paths. What I think we have in China is a far deeper understanding that the world beyond this physical world we can never describe, because our experience of this world is entirely physical. There's a wonderful story the Buddha tells of a turtle and a fish. And the fish says to the turtle, go out of the sea, wander around, come back and tell me what it's like. So the turtle climbs out and walks across the hot sand, goes through a little stream, goes through grass, climbs a tree, comes back into the sea, and the fish goes, go on, tell me, what was it like, what was it like? So the turtle goes, well, walking across hot sand is nothing like sand at the bottom of the sea. And walking through a stream is nothing like swimming in the sea. And walking through grass is nothing like walking through seaweed. And climbing it, and the fish is going, no, don't tell me what it's not like. Tell me what it's like. And the turtle says, I can't. The only experience you've ever had is of this watery world. And that's us. The only experience we've had of the universe is this tiny planet in an obscure solar system, in a galaxy that's on the far edge of the universe. To think that we can therefore talk and use language about that which lies beyond our experience is impossible. And I think the great skill in Taoism is it tells stories about what comes after life. It doesn't try to give a definition. And that frees us, in a sense, to view the fact that it should be the values we live by now that will determine the kind of people we might be after death.
Now, yet another catchphrase in the vocabulary of Taoism is 后发制人.
后发制人.
Yeah, it's very meaningful. I mean, literally it means you won't attack unless you come under fire. This is one of the principles for the American Marines. Fortunately, it is also our principle in shaping our diplomacy and security strategy. Mr. Ambassador, the Chinese diplomacy has always caused a lot of debates throughout the world. Now, when we come to the understanding of 后发制人, we don't attack until we come under fire. Does it mean that we would never ever tend to preemptive strikes, but we would rather to let surprise attacks on Pearl Harbor to be repeated? That would be very bad.
I have no doubt about this. China is by no way an imperialistic state. I think the major concern of the Chinese government today is still to bring everybody to a kind of middle income level so that China can share the benefits of the growth, which is not the case today. And there is enough work to be done in this respect to prevent any change of course, because nothing in the Chinese history is pointing at imperialism, you know. China is just massively sitting in the middle and is not so much concerned about invading others for the sake of mercantilism of I don't know what we did in the West, basically. I don't think imperialism is in the gene of China. Might become, but it's not yet. And this is maybe also
yes,
because
for
of
centuries
Taoism.
we didn't occupy a single inch of overseas territory, and therefore China felt quite confused as to why we were accused of being assertive in the South China Sea, despite debates on the nine-dash line.
People are not used to it.
Well, yes, of course. The last question, Master Zhang, is about the Hollywood blockbuster Kung Fu Panda. Because I know this is one of the areas where you have one of the greatest interests there in explaining to the rest of the world about the essence and most inspiring part of Taoism, Kung Fu. Kung Fu martial arts is one of the major hallmarks concerning Chinese culture. Panda, the giant panda, looks very cute, lovely, stupid, slow, always on the defensive. Very defensive until the last moment when the monster was beaten and defeated by a misleading image of the giant panda. So this story involves a lot of understanding about Chinese philosophy, Taoism and Buddhism. Your perspective is very much appreciated.
Oh, I'm sorry for that because I haven't seen through all these
the movie.
The movie.
You didn't see the movie.
I saw the movie just on this, advertisement.
Okay. Maybe Martin, you're in a better position to answer this question. If you have ever watched this movie,
I have indeed, and in fact, I've watched it with my granddaughter, who thoroughly enjoys it. And
I'm glad I'm of the same age of your granddaughter.
I think you're right. I mean, what is interesting? Again, I go back to this wonderful thing about Taoism. Taoism is extraordinarily good at capturing very complicated ideas in a story. I'm reminded, for example, of the wonderful story in Liu Tzu about a grand feast that is being given by a great merchant who's about to go on a journey. And he stands up at the end of the feast rather full of himself and he goes, "Isn't it wonderful that nature, the Tao, gives us all these wonderful things to eat and keeps them alive until we're ready to eat them?" And everyone's going, "Oh, yes, 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 yes." And then a 10-year-old boy stands up and goes, "No, no, you're wrong. No, these weren't all created for us, because on that basis, tigers like to chew our bones, mosquitoes like to bite us. Were we invented, created to feed tigers and to feed mosquitoes? No." And it's that use of humor, it's the use of children in particular, to bring us down to earth, to deal with how do we deal with aggression? How do we deal with things that are wrong? And I think in many ways, and it's beautifully done, it's very funny, but I think it's very close to the Taoist tradition. If you can make people laugh and smile, they'll remember your teaching a lot longer than if you have to tell them to look sad and miserable.
But Martin and gentlemen, my job, unfortunately, is to grill people with tough questions. Not to make people feel happy all the time. But why you were a computer major and you became a master of Taoism very quickly?
Oh,
your personal story.
Okay, that was a very short story because I was majored in math basically. Then I went to the computer science. Then one day I saw my master was doing we call it Qigong. It's not a really Qigong, it's a practice. He's a very strong guy, and he's like 90-some years old, and he looks so strong. And
he's 90 years old.
90 when I first met my master, and his memory is very, very good, super good. Because I was asking him some questions, I thought for 90 years old he wouldn't be able to remember anything, but he can recite a whole page of this paragraph.
Amazing, absolutely
and
amazing.
Explain it. So I think just for this I want to learn.
Thank you so much for this enlightening story. With that, we come to the end of this wonderful, profound discussion about the philosophy and religion of Taoism. I'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye.